Ellie is an American art student studying abroad in London. She takes a phone call from her friend Jess while in a public library, upsetting the other patrons. Ellie apologizes to the patrons, then to Jess for running late for their meeting. She needs to submit her assignment quickly before the deadline, then go to see Jess. Ellie does not have a car, and there is no bus currently available. Her best option is to run to make it to see Jess before she is even more late. While running across the yard, she runs directly into James, injuring him and causing his nose to bleed. James nearly collapses from the head injury, but Ellie catches him and takes him to see a doctor. James rests on the hospital bed while Ellie calls Jess and explains she can't make it to the meeting. Ellie, thinking that James can't hear her, comments that he is cute, which makes James smile. The doctor checks on both James and Ellie, explaining they may have concussions. He asks that they do neurological checks every 4 hours to make sure there is no lasting damage. The doctor insinuates James and Ellie are dating, which upsets Ellie and amuses James. The doctor leaves to get pamphlets about neurological checks. James takes the opportunity to ask if Ellie really thinks he's cute, which makes her embarrassed as she did not realize he could hear her. James then asks for Ellie's number, and she says yes. Ellie checks the time, realizes she is about to miss the deadline for her assignment, and runs out of the doctor's office before she has time to give James her number or get the pamphlets from the doctor about neurological checks. Ellie meets up with her friend Jess for a picnic. While getting out champagne for Jess, Ellie realizes her notebook is missing. Jess promises they can go back to find it after they drink. James, now at work, tries to hand in his notes but is unable as he does not have the papers with him. He mistakenly picked up Ellie's notebook instead. Thus, Ellie is unable to find the notebook when she and Jess go back to check at the clinic. James arrives at the clinic as well, looking for his papers. James and Ellie meet again in the doctor's office, trading back the notebook and papers. James offers to take Ellie out for a drink, but she is busy learning how to do her neurological checks, so they decide to go for a walk in the park the next day. The next day, James and Ellie meet up at the Cafe Tea Darling. Ellie is hungover and James is still injured, so they tease each other about it. They go inside, where Ellie has a full English breakfast and James has a green juice, confusing the waitress. Ellie learns that Cafe Tea Darling is James's favorite cafe, despite the cute decorations. During their walk in the park, James tells Ellie that he is not a student at the university. He was just nearby as he works at a graphic design agency, and one of his coworkers attends. They continue walking around London, James showing Ellie some of his other favorite places, which includes teaching her how to properly row a boat. James gives his jacket to Ellie when it starts to get windy. Later, they go to James's office. He shows her some of his work and offers to give her a copy of a piece of artwork she likes. In return, Ellie gives James an artful photograph of the building where they literally collided on the sidewalk. James talks a little more about why he loves doing his work. Ellie is skeptical and offers advice on his newest project, as she does not believe he is thinking about it correctly. James agrees and takes her to dinner. After their dinner, James and Ellie go back to the park from earlier. Ellie goes to kiss James, but he pulls back as his lip is still injured. James reassures her that he would love to kiss her, but his lip needs to heal. Ellie feels bad for hurting him again. He says he doesn't mind her hurting him as they'd never have met each other if she hadn't. They promise to meet back at the park for their next date. James says he doesn't want Ellie's number, he wants to do things the old-fashioned way. He says that if it's meant to happen, it'll happen. Ellie then tells James that she will be moving back to America in 2 days. James is saddened by this, but tells her they will make it work. At his work presentation, everyone is silent, staring at James. He feels like he is about to be fired. Then, the client finally breaks the silence and says she loves his work. Relieved, James, his coworker Harry, their boss Morgan, and the new client go to the bar to celebrate. James is worried he won't make it to the park in time to see Ellie, and vents to Harry. James says he may leave England to follow Ellie, which worries Morgan and Harry, especially as Morgan had just told the new client that James will be working with them long term. Morgan tells him not to go to meet Ellie as the celebration is more important. James tells Harry to go find Ellie at the park and tell her he can't come to the date but will see her the next day at her dorm. Harry agrees, on the condition James buys him dinner later in the week. But Ellie has been waiting alone at the park for hours, and leaves before Harry ever gets to her. Harry mistakes another girl for Ellie, giving her the information instead. He texts James that he talked to Ellie, though he never actually had. Disappointed from the night before, Ellie leaves her dorm in the early morning, not knowing James would be coming to see her. James gets to the dorm just as Ellie leaves, and they miss each other. Ellie has the driver stop at James's office to leave a note, but it's Morgan that answers. Morgan reads the note, laughs, then throws it away. She wants to keep James as an employee, and can't have him chasing a girl to America. As Ellie arrives in America and looks dejectedly across the sea at where James would be, James sits sad on the couch, staring out the window at where Ellie would be. When then cut to 6 years later, Jess runs a successful art shop. She wants Ellie to sell her photographs there, but Ellie doesn't want to do art anymore. Ellie does not think she can make enough money off artful photographs, so she now does commercial photography. Ellie's mom is about to lose their family home. Jess tells Ellie she should call back Noah on a job offer, but Ellie is reluctant as it is related to waste fertilizer. Jess tells her to do it anyway if she needs the money so badly. Jess suggests she should marry Noah, which makes Ellie angry, and she leaves, but agrees to call Noah. Ellie calls as soon as she gets home. The excitable secretary goes to get Noah, forgetting to put Ellie on hold before going to get him. Ellie can hear Noah hyping himself up as he prepares to answer the phone. Noah and his secretary practice Noah picking up the phone, as she encourages him with a pitiful face. Stressed, Noah lashes out at his secretary about mints, then continues to practice, doubting himself. He then begins to do cardio as he thinks he's nervous due to poor blood circulation. Finally, Noah presses the hold button to end the hold, but as the secretary had not started it, Ellie is put on hold, making her laugh. Ellie and Noah meet up in a cafe, discussing high school. Noah is incredibly awkward, constantly asking questions without waiting for answers. He compliments her endlessly, saying he'd often go by her studio and want to go in, but didn't have the courage. They then discuss business, where Noah says he makes $330 million a year. Ellie is shocked as she usually only works for small businesses. She asks why Noah doesn't have an ad agency when the business is so large, but Noah assures her he does. He hired one from England. Ellie is confused about what she would be doing if there is an ad agency, and Noah tells her she would be taking the photographs for them to use. Ellie is reluctant as she has not done much photography recently, but Noah says he remembers her being amazing in high school. He then says she is cool and has connections, so she could help him speak their language. Ellie says it is just English, not another language, which makes Noah laugh uncontrollably. Noah then explains that the main part of Ellie's job will be to keep an eye on the British ad agency, and make sure they are doing their jobs properly. The last campaign for his company was terrible, and he does not want it to happen again. Ellie agrees, and Noah welcomes her to the family, then asks her on a date. Ellie agrees without a second thought. The next morning, tensions are high between Ellie and her mom. Ellie is on the computer looking up the British ad agency. She sees the art James had given her on their website, realizing Noah had hired James's ad agency. Ellie is now more reluctant to work with Noah if she has to see James, still believing he had stood her up on their second date. Ellie's first meeting opens with Harry and Morgan. James comes in after everyone else, not seeing Ellie at first as he chats with Noah. He notices Ellie, and though he is shocked, smiles widely at her. Ellie glares at James, but he is confused as he is not aware she thinks he stood her up. Noah introduces James and Ellie, and they act as if it is their first time meeting. Harry and Morgan do not remember Ellie, and do not notice the weird interaction. They then get straight to discussing the campaign. James's ad agency will come up with the idea for the campaign, then work with Ellie to produce it. The campaign is due to be produced in the fall. James asks Ellie if she does many commercial productions, and she says she does a few, still glaring at James. Thinking James is questioning her ability, Noah says Ellie has done tons of commercial productions, and everyone in town thinks she is the best at her job. James agrees that she has a wonderful reputation. Noah continues to gush about Ellie's portrait work, but Morgan cuts him off to discuss social media. Noah has no idea what he wants to do with social media, trusting the ad agency to make the decision. James wants to know what Noah's customer demographic is. Noah describes them as mostly industrial farmers, but wants to grow his influence in urban agriculture. As Noah continues to talk, James grabs Ellie's portfolio, going through the photographs in it. He is confused at her work as it no longer looks like the work he knew her for when they first met. Ellie looks away from him, no longer angry, just ashamed of what he now may see her as. James compliments the photographs as very evenly lit. Looking directly at Ellie, he continues to make very broad statements about the photographs, insinuating that they aren't art anymore, just pictures of products. Ellie is irritated by this, saying art is determined by the outcome, something he had told her on their first date. He retaliates by saying art is in the art itself, something Ellie had told James that same day. Looking at the others at the table, he says someone had told him that once. Ellie glares at him again, asking him if he actually believes that or if he is just spinning words as that is his job. James says he believes in what he does, and asks if Ellie can say the same. Ellie says that clever words aren't enough, you need to follow through. You don't just abandon something, unless it was never meant to go far. She is talking about how James stood her up, but he doesn't seem to realize this. James tells Ellie she had compromised herself, and she storms out. James quickly follows after, apologizing. No one at the table is quite sure what just happened, choosing to end the meeting for the day. Noah follows Ellie and James, worried about what happened. Ellie confronts James at the elevator, asking why he would speak to her in such a way when seeing her for the first time after what he had done. James is confused about what she is talking about. Noah joins James and Ellie at the elevator, dismissing James and trying to comfort Ellie. Ellie says she can't work on this project anymore. Noah tells her to take some time to think about things before making such a decision, and asks Ellie to meet him for dinner later in the day. Ellie reluctantly agrees and goes home. She tells her mom that the meeting was a disaster and that she is doubting her job. She feels like she is living a lie, that she's no longer enjoying art and just doing things for money. Ellie's mom, not understanding her daughter's words at all, asks if Ellie is going to be paid, then is excited when she says yes. Ellie goes to Jess's art gallery before her scheduled dinner with Noah, drinking heavily as she tries to cope. She tells Jess that James is in America and was rude to her. She then tells her that she is going to dinner with Noah, which Jess is excited about. Jess is confused why Ellie would have seen James at the meeting, and Ellie explains that James's ad agency is working on the campaign. Jess then tells Ellie that Harry had come by earlier to schedule a launch party for the campaign at her art gallery. Ellie is confused why they would want to have a launch party at the art gallery, but says it could be fun. At dinner with Noah, Ellie drinks more. She is already a little bit tipsy, and the conversations get interesting quickly. Noah tells Ellie that she had a crush on her in high school, but assures her that he doesn't have a crush anymore and the dinner is purely professional. He truly just likes her work and wants her to be part of the campaign. He thinks that she is doing great at helping talk with the ad agency, as he didn't understand any of the argument between Ellie and James, but could tell he was being rude. Ellie agrees that James was being a jerk, and Noah offers to fire the ad agency. Ellie tells him to keep the agency and agrees to continue working with them. At tennis, Morgan calls Ellie a gold digger, which annoys James. He tells Morgan that Ellie didn't do anything wrong, he was the one that upset her. Morgan calls Ellie a snowflake and says her work is terrible. She doesn't want to work with her. Harry and James go to Jess's art gallery with Noah to work out the details of the launch party. Jess tells James not to worry too much about Ellie being angry with him. They'll make up. Ellie arrives shortly after. Morgan practices her speech in the gallery, asking if the acoustics sound all right. She decides they will need a microphone. Morgan tells James to recap Ellie on what she missed Friday. James and Ellie step aside. Instead of discussing the Friday meeting, James tells Ellie how he had gone to her dorm that fateful day and went to Heathrow Airport when she wasn't there, but couldn't find her there either. Ellie insists James tells her about the Friday meeting as Morgan requested. James briefly recaps all the methods they will be using for advertising. He tells Ellie that Noah wants to be featured in the campaign personally, which surprises Ellie after what happened with the last campaign. James makes a comment about Ellie being a compromised artist, which irritates her. She yells that his comments are not why she is mad with him, which makes everyone look their way. She tells him she's mad at him because he never showed up to their date in the park. She tells him she waited for hours, then went to his office and gave her phone number to Morgan to pass on to him. Morgan ignores their conversation, continuing to talk about her ideas for the launch party. Ellie tells the group she is going to head out and work on the campaign at home. Morgan is annoyed that she keeps leaving early. James and Harry go to a bar after the meeting and discuss when Harry went to the park to talk to Ellie. James asks Harry if he actually ever did speak to Ellie. Harry assures him that he did and shows James the social media of the girl he spoke to. James realizes that Harry had never spoken to Ellie. He spoke to another random girl called Ide. Harry realizes why James and Ellie had been so tense at meetings. James leaves the bar to go find Ellie and apologize. He sees Ellie through the window fixing Noah's tie and assumes they are dating. He leaves a book on the doorstep instead of going in to talk to her. James goes to a cafe to think, where Ellie later finds him. She asks if James had really gone to Heathrow to try to find her that day. He says he did, but he couldn't get past security. Ellie tells James that Harry had explained he was supposed to talk to Ellie that night, but had talked to Ide instead. James apologizes for what happened and for how he spoke to Ellie in the meeting, but he says he meant what he said. He thinks that Ellie has compromised her art too much. He asks her when she ever cared about money. Ellie, annoyed, says she needed it to help her mom. James says he's not going to argue with her. He had left her the book as a way to apologize. Ellie asks why he hadn't just come inside, and he says he didn't want to intrude on her and Noah. James asks if Ellie's work is what she really wants for herself. Ellie says James doesn't know her, and in response, he pulls out the artful photograph that Ellie had given him so long ago. He had kept it all those years. He carries it everywhere he goes. James tells Ellie that his ad agency is so popular because of Ellie's ideas for his campaign when they had met. Her art was used as the centerpiece of the campaign. He says that Ellie put them on the map. When Ellie arrives at her studio, she has James's words running through her head. As she preps for the campaign photos, she decides she wants to try something a little bit different. Instead of taking photographs of the bag of fertilizer, Ellie dumps the bag out and takes pictures of the fertilizer itself. Jess comes by in the morning, and Ellie is still working. Jess says that Ellie's photos look great. She jokes that dating Noah is working great for Ellie. Ellie denies that she is dating Noah, despite her being about to go out to dinner with Noah for the third time. Ellie says that her inspiration came from talking to James. Jess and Ellie are both worried by this development. At Noah's office, James and Ellie are going over the photos. James can't stop complimenting them, believing that Ellie is back in her groove, that she has found her creativity again. Noah, Harry, and Morgan arrive as they are still talking. Noah finds James and Ellie joking about hiding Noah in the photographs instead of making him center stage. He is offended and leaves. James and Ellie don't notice that the others have arrived. They leave with Noah. James and Ellie continue to talk into the night, not noticing the time or that no one is at the office. Their whiteboard is full of ideas for the campaign. As they finish up, they come up with the campaign's tagline, "Getting it done." James and Ellie take their work to the studio to take test photos. Ellie mistakenly leaves her phone behind at the office, missing a call from Noah. Noah is alone at the restaurant he and Ellie were meant to be meeting at, a bouquet of flowers on the empty table. James and Ellie are at the studio eating takeout. Noah leaves the restaurant, upset. He tries to call Ellie again, but there is no answer. He calls Ellie's mom instead, asking where he can find Ellie. At the studio, James is working as a stand-in for photographs, posing as they would have Noah in the next stage of photographs. Jess and Harry arrive, asking where the two of them have been. Ellie's mom and Noah have been looking for Ellie. No one had been able to reach Ellie since she left her phone at the office. She has 9 missed calls from her mom and 7 from Noah. Jess tells Ellie that James needs to hide as people would assume they were doing something other than working since they were alone all night. Ellie agrees and tells James to leave. James thinks it is stupid that he has to leave, arguing with them, upset that Ellie had a date with Noah. Harry sees Ellie's mom outside and James finally agrees to hide in the bathroom. Ellie's mom comes into the studio, full of anger, Noah trailing behind sheepishly. He didn't expect Ellie's mom to yell at her. Jess says she and Ellie had gone to dinner and come back to the studio, and Ellie apologizes for missing the date. Noah assures her that it's fine. Ellie's mom says she'll leave, but she needs to go to the bathroom first. Jess and Ellie try to stop her, but are not successful. Jess explains that Ellie's mom can't go to the bathroom because Jess's date is in there, referencing Harry. Before Ellie's mom can get in the bathroom, James jumps out the window, and Harry comes out of the bathroom. Jess and Harry leave, going off on their date. Ellie's mom makes a big show of going to the bathroom, expecting some kind of trick. Noah and Ellie are left alone, but Noah sees the pictures of James on Ellie's computer and leaves the studio, upset with her. In the morning, Ellie's mom tells Ellie to stop trying to pursue James. He wants her to marry Noah as he is financially stable, and she does not think James is. She's afraid that James is going to break Ellie's heart. Ellie tries to talk to her mom to tell her that's not what is happening, but she is having trouble swallowing her breakfast muffin and can't get any words out. At the meeting that day, Noah is not reciprocal to any ideas, upset that James and Ellie are not there with the others, assuming they are together. James arrives late as Morgan never told him there was a meeting. Morgan accuses James of trying to date Ellie, upset as she sees Ellie as Noah's girlfriend. James deflects her words, annoyed that she keeps coming at him. He tries to talk to Noah and tell him nothing happened between him and Ellie, they were just working on the campaign. Noah asks James to promise he has nothing but a professional interest in Ellie. As Ellie is walking in, she hears James's lack of a promise. Noah leaves for the meeting, disregarding the campaign photos that Ellie brought. Morgan goes after Noah, trying to convince him to not fire them. Noah ignores her, and Morgan freaks out, calling her boss. Still in the meeting room, Ellie asks if Morgan and Noah were right. Is James's interest in her really only professional? He says it is, but Ellie says he's lying. James says he wouldn't pursue her when she is dating Noah, but Ellie says she isn't dating him. James says that is not what Noah thinks, and he feels like Ellie is leading on both him and Noah. He says she is having trouble picking someone to commit to, and if she won't admit her feelings for James to Noah, they can't pursue a relationship. Morgan comes in as he is saying this, telling James he ruined the ad agency's expansion to America. She wants to fire him, but can't, so instead she promotes him to a position located in London. James doesn't want to take the position, but Morgan implies if he doesn't, it would show he's not in a professional relationship with Ellie, which would be grounds for firing him. James knows she is right, and books a flight to London. Harry takes over for James on the campaign with Noah. Because James is out of the picture, Noah chooses not to fire the ad agency. He and Ellie also continue to go on dates, which Ellie's mom is ecstatic about, but Ellie doesn't seem to be very happy with it. They get rid of the creative campaign James and Ellie had come up with, going with the more conventional option. At Jess's art gallery, she makes fun of the campaign photos, saying they're terrible, but in a goofy Noah sort of way. She asks if Ellie has told Noah that she isn't interested. Ellie vents to Jess how Morgan and Harry aren't very good on campaigns, not like James was. Ellie goes to Harry's hotel, where she sees Harry and Morgan playing tennis. Morgan is making fun of the campaign, America, Ellie, and Harry. Harry intentionally humiliates her in tennis as a retaliation. Ellie comes to see Harry in the locker room, not wanting Morgan to see them talking. She tells him that the campaign is a train wreck, and he agrees. He has tried to change it to be more interesting, but Morgan won't listen to him. She only ever listened to James. Ellie suggests they could go to James about it, as he is the new creative director of the ad agency. In London, James and his new boss discuss how James misses Ellie. In America, Ellie and Noah are on another date, discussing the difference between plain fish and spicy steak, implying Noah is the plain fish and James is the spicy steak. Back in London, James's boss tells him to go back to America. He tells James that Morgan was sabotaging James's love life, as well as the campaign they were working on. Ellie comes into the office then, having flown to London to see James. She tells him that they need him to authorize the campaign going back to the creative one they had worked on together. At the lunch party, Noah is awestruck by his assistant, who is dressed up. Noah mentions that Ellie's mom doesn't know he and Ellie have broken up, but it's okay. He has come to terms with it. Noah and Ellie discuss how the campaign Morgan created was terrible. Noah apologizes for sending James back to London. He didn't realize how helpful he was or how much Ellie needed him. James is waiting outside the art gallery. Noah goes to talk to him as Morgan begins her speech. Noah and James discuss how they both love Ellie, but it's not about what either of them want. It's about what Ellie wants. Noah and James go back inside, throwing off Morgan as she sees James in the crowd. Harry unveils the photographs, to much applause. Morgan, however, is very upset as the campaign photos shown are not the ones she approved. Morgan tries to take credit for it to Noah, but everyone shuts her down. Noah fires her from the campaign, and her boss calls to fire her from the ad agency. James and Ellie leave the launch party, finally going for the walk in the park. Ellie gives him the kiss she had been waiting so long for, and James writes down her number for the first time.